Great, great. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here today. Um, I've done a lot of advising senior people, both men and women, on their profile. And in fact, it's the sort of work that I really enjoy the most, actually, working with an individual on their positioning, on their leadership, on their thought leadership, and how they kind of use that to advance their career. But more than that, to sort of advance within the sector that they work, to sort of make a real difference to the sector overall. So I'm going to talk about some of the experiences I've had and give you some sort of ideas about how you can develop your own leadership positioning and finding your authentic voice. So first of all, what is your authentic self? This is something that needs some sort of introspection and some thought, and it really has to come from you. I went to a lecture a few days ago by this guy, Sir Grayson Perry. He's a British artist, very interesting guy, does a lot of artwork around identity. And he said at this lecture that for him, authenticity is being all of yourself all of the time with everyone. So I really like that. And he also made the point, which I think is very interesting, that authenticity is fluid, that it changes. You know, you come across people who are giving the same sort of speeches that they gave, 15 years ago, and they've kind of like locked themselves into a sort of view of the world. When in fact that doesn't really make any sense, because the world changes and also we change. So it is a fluid concept. Your authentic voice, your authentic self does change over time. And I think if you can embrace uncertainty and see that, as we go on, our views and attitudes towards the world change as we become educated, as we become more informed. So, things that we maybe believed 5 years ago, we probably don't believe anymore. And it's important to sort of recognize that is a process that goes on for the rest of our lives, really. We're all a work in progress. We are all a work in progress, and we're always changing. And I think it's important that your authentic voice changes with the times as you learn more about the world. It's really important that you find your authentic voice yourself. There's always somebody, them, they. There's always somebody sort of telling you what to do, what to be, how you should be better than you are, what you should be doing, who you should be. And I think it's really important that you sort of ignore all those sorts of people and work it out for yourself. Now, it doesn't mean to say you can't work with people like me to sort of ask the right questions, but I would never tell one of my clients, you should believe this, you should do this, you should talk about this. It's I can ask questions and prompts and get them, but ultimately they need to arrive at it themselves, because it is their authentic voice. I can't make one up for you and give it to you, because then it's not authentic. So so you should really sort of not listen to people who sort of say you should do this, you should do that, and they should do the other, because none of their business, basically. And I think there's some sort of very negative ways of thinking about your authentic voice and yourself around, which are not helpful. And some of these I've sort of put up sort of what I call red flag traps. If you start to sort of think about these sorts of constructs, I think you're probably in trouble. So, be the best version of yourself. People who sort of say you need to do this, you should do this. This idea of strengths and weaknesses, and this idea of pushing yourself and achieving your potential. I think these are all quite unhelpful ways of thinking about yourself and your profile and your progress. I think be the best version of yourself implies that what you've got now is not very good. And it's again this thing about being very hard on yourself, which I think is something women do more than men. The fact is that you're great, you've achieved a huge amount already, but of course you're always changing. It doesn't mean to say that that what you've got now isn't the best version of yourself. I think it's a very negative way of looking at things. And this thing about people say to you, you need to do this, you need to do the other, or you should do this, you should do the other. you definitely need to decide what you want to do and what you want to be, not other people. And I prefer to use, rather than say to people, you should do this, you should do that. If you just change it from you should to you could, it's much more empowering for the other person. The concept of strengths and weaknesses I find is a very, very unhelpful concept. I just don't believe in it. I think we all have characteristics, we all have personalities, we all have working styles, and sometimes some of those things are really helpful. Other times you need to want to rein some of the things back in. So, I mean, for example, if you say aggression, some people might say, "Oh, one of your one of your weaknesses, you're very aggressive." Well, aggression might be a strength. It just depends on the situation. So I think this sort of idea of seeing yourself as somebody with strengths and weaknesses is very unhelpful, and is often used by people against you, I think. Kind of the implication is that there's things that you don't do well and you need to sort of improve upon. When in fact, I think that's a really unhelpful way of looking at things. And this thing about pushing yourself, I think rather than pushing yourself, I think more important to be kind to yourself. And self-care is absolutely critical as you sort of progress in your career, because nobody else is going to be kind to you. You owe it to yourself to be kind to you and to look after yourself as you progress in your career. And this thing about achieving your potential, again, I think you're already great as you are, but just it's about keeping moving forward. It's you've achieved your potential, but of course that's always an evolving situation. Okay, so let's get a bit more practical and look at how we progress and how you keep moving forward. So a strategy and a plan. So first of all, finding your authentic voice, and then looking at a bit around leadership positioning. So finding your authentic voice, as I said, it has to come from you. It's the essence of you. So you could think about things like, what do you really want and why? What matters to you in your sector, in your industry? And what makes you angry about your industry, about the financial sector, and what do you want to change? It might be that the the global banking sector has done a pretty bad job of managing, has kind of crashed the world economy in 2008, and basically it's still a mess. Why is that? Think about these sort of things that you want to see change in your sector. What do you want to tell people? What do you want people to think and do? And what change do you want to create? And I think particularly also, how do you want to help others? Because all this leadership and thought leadership and profiling is not just about helping you, it's also about helping other people who work in your sector or even beyond. I think if it's all about just rotating yourself, it's not going to go very far, because the sorts of change you should be looking to sort of create in your sector, in your industry, should ideally have wider benefits, if you like, whether it's to other people who work in your sector, not just your company, or whether it's to society more widely. Okay, and then sort of working out what your story is. I think these are the sorts of steps I would think about. So first of all, why should anybody listen to you? And this is where you talk about your achievements and as Nuru said, the numbers that you've achieved. The business that's grown during your tenure, how how you've sort of what you've achieved during your career. And that gives you credibility to be listened to. And you can also talk about, what it is that's held you back in your industry that you now want to change. Then defining the problem, what is the problem that you think should be fixed? And then thinking about, well, if we don't fix it, what do we lose out as an industry, as a company, or as a society? It could be, as I said, equitable growth. It could be resilience. It could be, we're missing out on social, economic, and natural capital of a country which is not being built because of the way the banking system is set up and run by men and in this kind of way. For example, I'm just sort of making this up. And then your vision for how we can change. What does the change look like? And then finally, your blueprint. What's your plan for that change? and how you take people with you, how you take the rest of the people in your sector with you to make things better. I think the best example of all this I can think of is the Lean In book written by Sheryl Sandberg, where she talked about her personal experience, but then sort of broadened it to give advice to women across the world in all sorts of sectors, in commercial sector and not commercial sector, to sort of get much more to lean into. And she's really started a movement, which is very, very helpful, not just for herself, but for women all over the world. So, okay, so then we think about the sort of positioning, and it is all about getting out there. So setting out your strategy, your strategy for change, and you need to sort of have some interesting ideas, because thought leadership needs leading thoughts. So the way to get that, I think, is to sort of do some research, a bit like the research Nuru has just presented to you. It could be just like sending out some questionnaires to some of your colleagues, but speaking to people, consulting with people, talking to people about their experiences of the issue, and meeting people, talking to people, and you kind of gain insights then for what the problems are. Creating a vision for change. So you really, ideally, you create something new. It might be something like the Angaza Forum, or it might be like a quarterly gathering of women that work in communications in the insurance industry. But some sort of new initiative to sort of give shape to your leadership will be helpful. You can put it out in a manifesto for change, and then write sort of white papers, blog posts, op-eds about the change that you want to achieve, and calling out the sort of issues that you see. Of course, the ultimate one is to write a book. Books are still very, very powerful in today's world, but you're talking about it quite a lot. I've written 3 books, and you talk about long lead time, so 2-3 years of gestation for that. And then I think that the networking is really, really important. And the thing about networking is that it's not about you trying to get things. I think the thing about networking is that you should be going to networking events to give, to help people rather than to receive. You're there to sort of like share and help others. So I think being consistent, keeping your story consistent and simple is very important, and every day telling your story, and wherever possible linking it to events in the world that happen, keeping it contemporary, keeping it keeping it contemporary. And then finally, media, very important to speak to the media, but to speak to all media. Don't worry about the audience of the individual media outlet, because it's all amplified on social anyway. Same with events, go to as many events as you can, and convene small events. People I work with, they might organize a small meeting of university students one night. 40 people might come to that. They might do small dinners. These sort of, it's almost like telling your story one person at a time. So it's, you need to put in a lot of hours and legwork to do this. Social media, of course, very important. Chris will talk about that in more detail. And work as much as you can with other people. We are a social species. This is a collective exercise. You'll find that people are very, very willing to participate and join in with an initiative that moves them, that affects them, that they want to be part of. Okay, so that's it. Just to sort of summarize, I think the main things I want to get across is being authentic. It's not a static experience. It's something that changes over time. Be really clear about what it is you want to change in your industry, in your company, in your country, even. And remember what you think is right. You know what you want to do. Now it's just take everybody with you to a better place. And always remember, you're an amazing, strong, and that's why you're in that position. And you're a masterpiece in progress, and never stop changing.